If you want to read this article, you can do so at justinstellman.com/A11. Get better results by asking better questions. About 10 years ago, I was introduced to the idea of asking better questions from reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It has really changed my life on a lot of levels. Oftentimes we get stuck in a negative pattern of either making a statement or asking ourselves all the wrong questions. If you're going to make any real progress with changing your life, one of the first things you have to do is correct your language. It's not just how you speak to others, but it's how you speak to yourself. When nobody is around and you're all alone, how do you speak to yourself? Are you kind? Are you speaking to your body in a loving and appreciative way? Most of my life, until the last dozen years or so, I never spoke to myself in a healthy, uplifting way. In the past few years, I've been really doing my best to stay on top of my language patterns using NLP, which is also called Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP principles, and bringing more awareness to the words that I choose to speak. I've also been using the same principles with regards to how I think. Adopting these language principles has been a real game changer. I highly recommend you adopt some of these concepts in your own life. The great thing about changing your language patterns is that it doesn't require that much effort. It's not like you have to have massive amounts of willpower like you would if you were trying to avoid foods you love or disciplining yourself to go to the gym every day. All it takes to change your language patterns is a little bit of awareness. Bringing a little bit of awareness is a beautiful tool to help improve many aspects of your life. For example, by cultivating more awareness, you can create better relationships. If you're aware of how you are acting towards somebody, you can choose to take the necessary steps to change how you're acting. More awareness can help you avoid making mistakes by implementing what I call a pattern interrupt. Awareness can help you recognize how you're acting in a situation and allow you to make a change right then and there. You won't have to wait until you get home to realize you just acted like a complete jerk all night. By bringing more awareness into your life, you can be conscious of the language you're using when in conversations. Are you using words that are self-deprecating? Are you asking questions that will elicit a no response? Do you have a tendency to be redundant by repeating stories to the same people? Do you often change the course of a conversation towards negativity? Awareness will help you catch what you're doing right when you're in the moment. When you have this awareness, you'll realize you just said something that was really negative. You'll see right away when you've been sarcastic and potentially hurt somebody's feelings. And right after you said it, you can apologize and be aware of what just happened. But when you get really good at it, you'll have this awareness even before you speak. You'll have intention behind conversations with people that will allow you to steer the conversations in the direction you'd like it to go. It's kind of like using the Force in Star Wars. Awareness will help you bring in more attention and intention to everything you do. Intention can be harnessed and used as creatively as you would like. For example, if you need to borrow some money from your dad, you can be aware of the language you use so that you can make your dad feel at home before you even ask him. You can make him feel like he can relax and put his guard down. Then, using intention, you can steer and guide the conversation at the pace you would like. This will allow you to ask the question at just the right time where you feel he has the highest chance of letting you borrow that money. On the flip side, I see people asking all the wrong questions and even worse, making statements. A child might ask a parent, "Mom, can you buy me this bike?" And the parent immediately says, "Sorry, Jamie, we can't afford that." The child most likely feels shut down, and as a result, the conversation simply ends. You can't afford it, so it's done. End of conversation. Making statements without conscious awareness can be very dangerous. As the old saying goes, the only disease is a closed mind. When you make statements like that, you close your mind off to all possibility. You see, money is created primarily in two different ways: our signature and creativity. The most creative people are the ones who earn the most money. Now, statements can be dangerous because not only does it pigeonhole you into a corner, but it subconsciously conditions your mind to accept limited solutions. When you make a statement like that, you're saying that in the entire universe of options and potential, we can't afford to buy that bike. In reality, there are many ways in which you could afford that bike. How about putting it on a credit card? That's an option. Not a good one, but it's still an option. How about borrowing the money from somebody? How about selling some junk in your garage in a garage sale to earn $100 so you can buy that bike? How about asking your boss for some overtime so you can afford it? How about increasing your rates if you're in the service industry? How about contacting old clients to see if they'd like to take you up on a sale you could run for them? In actuality, there are a dozen ways you can earn some extra money in order to buy that bike for your child. Then, why do we like to make statements and then defend them? It's because that's how we learned. We learned subconsciously through imprinting from self-deprecating language our parents used. Don't feel bad, it's just the way it is. That's just the way it was as well. But what I'm offering here is an opportunity to upgrade your language skills. When we make a statement that closes itself off like a closed loop, the answer is known before the statement is declared. We have no money, so we can't afford the bike. The weird thing is that the statement itself allows us to feel sure about something in a world that's constantly unsure. What we're sure about is that we have no money. The statement itself subconsciously makes us feel safe because we have surety about something. And on another level, making that statement implies a direct connection to our ego. Not only does a statement like that make us feel sure about something, i.e., we have no money so we can't afford anything, but in a strange, convoluted way, it actually gives us power. It's basically another form of complaining. It's a way of venting our frustrations about how our life currently is. This is the way it is, you say to yourself, so I just have to budget accordingly and deal with it. It's really a camouflage way of complaining to the universe that you feel powerless because you have no money. It's challenging to take yourself out of a victim mentality and live in the 0 point of possibility. The 0 point is that sacred fulcrum. Remember teeter-totters when you were a kid? It's that sacred fulcrum where all possibility exists. When one child puts more weight on the teeter-totter near the fulcrum, one side goes up while the other side goes down. When you ask upgraded questions, you live in a perpetual state of 0 point possibility. As we discussed before, creativity is where money is created. When you tap into your creative mind, remember that imaginative creative mind you had when you were 8 years old? And when you tap into that, you can be open to new ideas about how to access the things you desire. The problem is being creative requires mental and emotional energy. It requires you to ask how questions instead of asking why things are the way they are. It's very disempowering to ask why questions. For example, look at how much more open and expansive the second question is below versus the first question. The first question is, I don't know why we don't have any money, we just can't afford it, versus what can we do to earn a little extra money to buy that bike? The first statement requires energy to come down, whereas the second question allows us to focus mental energy up and out. One is closed while the other is open to potential. The first one allows negativity to foster and keep yourself closed off. And the second question brings in limitless creative potential. Avoid why questions. One of my main problems I had when I was a young adult was complaining about situations by asking why questions. Why questions can never be answered, which further exacerbated my growing frustration and negativity, because I knew deep down that nobody could ever give me a good answer to my why question. It gave me more reason to complain and remain in my downward spiral of negativity. When you live in this state, it creates opportunity for disease to proliferate along with attracting everything you don't want into your life. You manifest that which you know to be true, which is that the world is a negative place where the weak are always oppressed. That level of thinking is a downward spiral that leads to depression and poor health. I liken it to be on the outer edges of a hurricane. The more you give into negative thoughts and asking why questions, the closer you're being sucked into the center of the vortex of that hurricane. It's trying to suck you in through language, through media, being in debt, and being too busy. They are all traps designed to squash the limitless creative potential within all of us. To fix this mess, you need to first correct your language. Why questions are designed to strip power from you. They're designed never to be answered. Your subconscious won't allow why questions to be answered. They just won't. For example, let's say you keep getting pulled over by the cops. You're constantly getting speeding tickets. Instead of asking, why do cops always pull me over? Why are they singling me out when other people are going faster than I am? What's the real answer to that why question? The real answer is cops always pull you over because you're not aware of how fast you're going and you're driving dangerously. Since you assume you're always right, ego and a lack of awareness is causing that. Your subconscious mind will not allow that question to come in. It's a way of avoiding taking 100% responsibility in your life. Instead, ask a question like this. What is it about my driving that attracts police to pull me over? Maybe you'll come up with ideas like your clothing, maybe you dress like a felon, your car isn't maintained, you're speeding, you are honking at people out of anger, and the list goes on. When you ask how questions, you can get in touch with real solutions to the things you struggle with in life. On a personal level, making these changes in my language has really been a game changer over the last few years. Here are some examples. Upon embarking on a new diet, instead of this question, how long am I going to have to be on this diet? Ask this question. How can I make this diet work for me so I can enjoy being on this new dietary lifestyle for as long as I want? Upon starting a new workout routine, instead of this, why do I have to lift weights? I hate lifting weights. Ask this question. How can I learn to enjoy the benefits of weightlifting and what weightlifting does for me? Upon asking a stranger out on a date, instead of this, why would he or she ever go out with me? Ask this. How can I increase my people skills so he or she will want to go out with me? Upon quitting your job to start your own business, instead of this, over 70% of businesses fail. Why would mine succeed? You can ask this question. What do the successful 30% do to ensure they don't fail? Upon breaking up with a significant other, instead of this question, why break up with him or her? Nobody else is going to want to be with me. Ask this. How can I more deeply enjoy the freedom to be myself now that I've broken up with that person? And upon wanting to buy something you can't afford, instead of asking this, I'm broke and I can't afford something that expensive, ask this. What creative ways can I think of to bring in extra money so I can buy that item? Now, these are just a few examples of how you can begin to reframe your language patterns. Through osmosis and subconscious imprinting, we have all taken on the language and thought patterns of people that surrounded us when we were impressionable young children. It's not our fault we think and communicate the way we do. I've learned that by bringing in more awareness into how I'm thinking and speaking has been an incredible way to get my language under control. The results of mastering language. When you master your thoughts and take full responsibility for the words you use, you start to feel more empowered. Instead of feeling like a helpless victim at the hands of life, you actually feel like you have some control over how and what you manifest into your reality. The great boxer Muhammad Ali said, quote, I said I was a champ long before I believed that I was. Now, here was a guy who understood the conditioning power of words and language. He understood how powerful words can be when we want to reshape our reality. I've seen people gain an incredible amount of personal mastery as a result of systematically changing their language patterns. You have the ability to earn more money for yourself, improve your health, attract the job you want, build your business, and attract a perfect partner. Language is how life is created and how it can be altered. When you couple language with conscious intention, you increase its power exponentially. Here's the order in which these three elements must be implemented. Awareness, number one, intention, and then language. You must have awareness and intention before you can begin to install new language software programs into your mind. So how do you increase your awareness? Well, you can do this a number of ways. The easiest way is to meditate. Meditation allows you to create a gap between the real you and your ego. It's almost like you get to observe yourself as an avatar, much like you're in a real-world video game. When you increase your awareness, you can act as the silent observer to all the things that are going on in your life. You can detach from your thoughts, opinions, and emotions. The 4 positions of power. Then you can act from a position of power. Carl Jung mentioned that people live and die stuck in one of 3 different roles they play in their lives. Number 1, the victim. The first role is the victim. The victim likes to feel powerless and complain. The victim likes to blame others and avoid taking responsibility. They seek out the sympathy and compassion of others. They're takers, not givers. The second one is the helper. The second role Carl Jung described is the helper, and the helper avoids issues in their own life and tries to help other people overcome their struggles. As like the victim, the helper is constantly avoiding their own personal growth in order to put their attention on other people. The third role is the perpetrator, and ironically, this is the healthiest position to be in. The perpetrator forces his or her will and desires upon others. The perpetrator makes things happen. It's a very male position. The fourth role is called the silent observer. And all three of these roles that Carl Jung concluded are acting in an egoic identification with the self. None of them realize there is a fourth position that stands above these other three. It's called the silent observer. You are the witness to them all. And in that sense, you can take on any of these three roles for a period of time that best serves you, and then you can go back to being the silent observer when you want. You can be the detached witness who controls and, more importantly, observes all three. Final conclusion. When you meditate, you step into the role of the silent observer. Every moment you sit there in silence with your eyes closed, the other three roles are freaking out like a child that thinks they've been abandoned. They're worried you'll never come back. They'll scream and yell trying to get your attention. They'll distract you. They'll bring up thoughts and drama so that they can no longer feel alone. They don't like it when you leave. But as you get better at meditation, you learn that the most important role is that of the silent observer. You soon realize those other three roles will be just fine all by themselves. They won't like it, but soon they will learn you need a break and they'll silence themselves. It gets easier the more you do it. As you finally learn to be that silent observer, you can start inviting him or her along to the events in your ordinary life. When the silent observer is with you, you learn to detach from drama. You start seeing events and sometimes even referring to yourself in the third person. It's almost as if you are looking down, watching yourself from about 10 feet above, watching how you are responding to people when they speak. The thing is, the observer can not only see what's going on from a situational perspective, but the observer can read your mind and let you know when you've used disempowering language. He or she knows when you're asking the wrong questions. It's quite a powerful place to be in, actually. It's only when you're in this position can you become more aware of how you're using language and interacting with others. Then it's possible to live every moment of your life in that fourth position. Then you can start asking all the right open-ended questions that gives you your creative side a chance to expand and respond with new possibilities. Don't you think it's time to let your silent observer take the reins for a while so you can start asking questions that actually serve you instead of retarding your growth? Now, it seems to me that when we start asking better questions, we're going to get better answers, don't you think? If you'd like to read this article, do so at justinselman.com/